All right, welcome to episode 6 of Heavy to Hungry podcast. I'm your host, Sally, and today I have a special guest. I have Dr. Cuneyt Vardar on the podcast today. He is a doctor of physical therapy with a specialization in sports medicine and strength and conditioning. Before we get started, why don't we have you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll introduce some of the topics that we will talk about in this video today.
Yeah. So thank you for having me. My degree is in physical therapy, doctor of physical therapy with CPSS, certified performance and sports scientist, and another specialization in strength conditioning. So what I do, I put general population individuals, both of older age and younger age, through rehab training, getting back to their old selves, getting them through pain. But what I most like doing is working with athletes, getting them back to their peak fitness and getting them back to playing their sport that they love. I also hold very strong passion for the strength conditioning world outside of rehab and just trying to completely optimize human performance in general.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great background, great story. And so, from what I understand, you work with a wide variety of individuals, but you kind of specialize in people doing sports and helping people optimize their athleticism within their specific sport.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yep, yep. My other job, my second job, is with the soccer team, so I try to really um, put the two worlds of rehab and performance together and implement some of my sports science background into getting objective data and relating that to the subjective world of rehab.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, you can go follow him on Instagram. Is that you just have Instagram? I'll plug your Instagram in the bio. Uh,
Yep.
all right. Cool. Yeah. All right. Anyways, to get into the topic today, we want to talk about the spread of misinformation on the internet as far as the fitness scene. You scroll on Instagram, TikTok, you're just normal person trying to get some information, trying to become a better version of themselves, and there's so many contradictions, people fighting back and forth. No, this is right. No, this is right. That's wrong. If you do this, you can't win. If you want to win, you have to do that. There's so much information out there. So today we're going to be talking about how to decipher what is good information, what is bad information, how misinformation spreads, and why people are so apt to listening to misinformation and just kind of carrying on with their life thinking that it's true. All right. So, the first topic that we can kind of jump into is what is misinformation? Like, I know that to us, we live in this world, it kind of seems like very obvious, but a lot of people probably don't even understand that that's a thing that happens in our niche. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what misinformation means to you as far as the internet and fitness as a whole?
100%. I can definitely talk about this for a very long time. But before we go deeper into it, I feel like it's really important to clarify that what we're saying is another just bit of information that we're putting out into the world. It's not, oh, because it's coming out of my mouth, it's a fact. That's not the case. Everyone has their own opinions, and some are better than others. But the whole piece of the misinformation topic that we're talking about is, where is that information? One, where is it coming from? Two, what's the intention behind it? And three, is it really researched and evidence backed? So what I see on the internet when I scroll is very common fads. So the first fad that comes to my mind is the anterior tibialis training fad. In the rehab world, that is something that I've been combating a lot. Um, I've seen it hundreds of times. Oh, how to bulletproof your knees, train your tib anterior. Um, Great. Tib anterior training is cool, but that is like maybe a fraction of 1% of bulletproofing your knees. So
Here, for the people
that
that maybe don't really know what that means, what is the tib anterior and why do people
oh
even spread this?
yeah, sorry. The tibialis anterior is the muscle on the front side of your shin. It helps to pick your foot up when you're walking. Um, it's a decently sized muscle, but it doesn't even cross the knee joint. So, in theory, why is it really that important in quote unquote bulletproofing your knees? So that's just the first example that came to my mind.
Hmm.
There's hundreds of other examples, and when there's a fad that comes out, that is typically something that is not research backed, not really peer reviewed, not doesn't really have a lot of weight to hold.
Mm,
So that's the first thing I would say to the general public is if there's a fad that's kind of taking the whole fitness industry by storm, it's probably BS.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a thing where a lot of time, we live in an era where information is so at hand. It's so easily accessible, and also we live in a rushed era. We want everything done right now, right now. We want everything to be done with like one thing. We just take a look at one thing and try to maximize that instead of zooming out and understanding the nuance behind what you're trying to do. So let's jump a little bit deeper into that specific example you gave. So if someone did want to bulletproof their knees, why is it maybe not a bad idea to just focus on that one thing? Like maybe, um, why should people kind of look at a slew of different information and make a decision? Why not just get your tibialis anterior strong, like that one guy on social media said?
Great question. Because the answer is never so black and white. It's always multidimensional, multifactorial. So if someone has knee pain, first off, what structure in the knee is injured? It can be your meniscus, MCL, ACL, tibial tendon, quad tendon, whatever. It can be probably like 30 different things. So first of all, what hurts, and then second, what when you do something, what are those things that hurt you? Third, how often does it hurt you? And then fourth, how often do you do those things? So there's certain movements that can help with those certain actions. People really just want a cookie cutter copy and paste. Okay, do these things to fix your knees. Unfortunately, if that were the case, I mean, I wouldn't have a job and there would be no such thing as physical therapy.
Right.
So it is extremely multidimensional. Even, for example, two people dealing with a meniscus injury can present completely different because maybe one person is overweight, the other person is very skinny. So there's a compressive force to that. So it's just hundreds of different factors, and then another factor that really people don't consider, not trying to get too far into the rehab world, but stress. It's like, okay, how does stress relate to knee injuries? You can't really give a cookie cutter approach to someone that's dealing with a lot of high stress, emotional stress,
Are you
and
talking
dealing with
about
chronic.
Are you talking about stress as far as like knee stress or just like life
Oh,
stress?
yes. Great question. Didn't clarify. I meant emotional stress.
Yeah.
So there's some research backing on the correlation between overall kind of emotional stress, cortisol levels, and the presentation of chronic pain, whether that's knee pain, back pain, neck pain, whatever it might be. There's definitely a correlation between the two. And how do you put a cookie cutter approach to that? It's impossible. So a lot of the misinformation that's spread online, it's taking that cookie cutter approach and applying one example to a million examples and saying, yeah, this one example that worked for one person can work for you too. It's just not that easy, unfortunately, and the general public eats it up because it's easy. It's
Yeah.
easy to just digest and regurgitate.
Yeah, yeah, that stress example, the reason I asked is that reminds me a lot about I was digging into some research about, how you can keep as much muscle as possible while trying to lose fat. And one of the main predictors of whether or not you're going to lose muscle while you're trying to lose fat is whether you perceive your program as a stressor. Right? If you perceive
Hmm.
your program as a stressor and your brain is sending cortisol through your body, sending a cortisol response to your muscle fibers and the androgen responses in there, if you perceive your program as a stressor, you're more likely to lose muscle just physiologically. So,
100%.
not just in the context of needs, but in the context of anything fitness related, there isn't just one answer. You cannot just
Oh yeah.
look up how to lose fat. And then, yeah, sure, you might see some good pieces here and there. Someone might provide a solid piece of information, and then someone else might. But you got to look at it from an objective, zoomed out perspective if you really want to get to the core. Now, as
100%.
as a fat loss coach, I see so many people who say they want to reach X goal, but then when you tell them, look, we have to take a look at this, and what are you doing here? What are we doing here? We might need to change this. We might need to shift this habit. And they're like, you know what? Maybe I'm not built for this. So, you work with a lot of people, obviously, in kind of a higher tier than I do. So, my question to you is, how do you get these types of people to be like, look, if you truly want to reach this goal, we need to shift some of these habits. And how do you get them to adhere to those habits?
Yup, yup. So a lot of the people I deal with um, are not the most active. They're relatively sedentary outside of the sports world that I deal with. So just speaking about, general public, relatively sedentary. You have people, your desk job workers, unable to get, enough steps throughout the day. Health literacy might not be the greatest. Body awareness might not be the greatest. So if we're starting at a relatively lower level, the thing I do not do, the thing I absolutely do not do is try to restructure their entire life within an hour. Okay, if you're drinking 8 ounces of water a day, if the recommended goal is 64 ounces, let's shoot for 15 ounces of water a day.
Golden advice. Golden.
So why would you catapult someone to 64 ounces of water a day when they're just getting 8? And they're like, oh my God, they might get 64 ounces one day, but then they just feel like a blob of liquid in their stomach, and they're like, I don't feel great. I'm hydrated now, but I don't feel great, and I'm not going to do it tomorrow because I'm just so far out of my routine. So how can we implement, drink 7 ounces more water a day, get a protein bar between breakfast and dinner because they only eat once or twice a day, and then get 500 more steps in during your lunch break. Those little lifestyle changes to make it very convenient for them, because if it's inconvenient, the chances of them executing it are slim to none.
Absolutely. I mean, again, a lot of your field is super relative to my field as far as fat loss coaching, because it's the same concept applies. A lot of people come into an exercise program thinking that they need to eat in a 1,000 calorie deficit right out of the gate. They need to cut out all carbs. They need to work out 7 days a week. I sit them down. I'm like, look, how many steps do you get? 5,000. All right, let's get 6,000 tomorrow. Let's just get
Yep.
6,000 tomorrow. Let's just get 1,000 more than you did yesterday. Once you can get 6,000 consistently, bump it up to 7,000. Shrink the goal. If you cannot stick to a habit, shrink the goal as small as humanly possible and just take one step forward. And that's my coaching philosophy. It seems like it's kind of your
Yep.
your philosophy as well, and because it's the one philosophy that actually gets you results that last for the rest of your life.
And, and unfortunately, it's the hardest philosophy to sell somebody because
Yeah,
they're selling a lifestyle change and not a pill. Something that is on this topic, but slight tangent, is a fad that I saw maybe a year ago. Exact, I'm not sure, but it's called 64 hard, I think, something like
75
that.
hard.
50, 75 hard. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know why I said 64.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, I just talked about
75 hard.
75 hard in one of my videos. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly how you feel about it, but I mean, honestly, it's a great client generator for me because people just injure themselves. Um, but it's it's 75 days of doing a bunch of things that you wouldn't usually do.
Yeah.
If you get through it, phenomenal. Like, you just improved yourself a lot. But how are you going to keep that up for the rest of your life? That's a straight sprint. You're sprinting. I've seen people like get very mean cases of tendonitis in multiple joints just by doing stuff that they wouldn't typically do, um, for this challenge. So now you've sprinted when you've never sprinted before, and now you're on pause for the next 3 months because
Mm,
you injured yourself. Um, the key is consistency and longevity. If you're not going to be able to do it for the rest of your life, then there's no point in doing it for 75 days, in my
100%.
opinion.
Yeah, dude. And to piggyback off that, my opinion on that is very similar. I did 75 hard once, and I'll tell you my experience about it. But if you don't know, 75 hard is where you have to do two workouts a day, every day for 75 days, one outside, one inside. You have to adhere to some sort of nutrition plan or diet. You have to drink a
Yep.
gallon of water a day. You have to not drink alcohol or take drugs for 75 days. Like crazy lifestyle changes. And you have to read 10 pages of a book every day. So it's like, for someone who's starting off with maybe 1,000 steps, not working out at all, eating fast food 3 times a day, going from that to the 75 hard challenge,
Yep.
when that first few days of motivation fades away, what are they going to do? Either one, they're going to quit because it's too hard and they can't adhere to it, or two, they're going to do the 75 days and have this external motivator. external accountability system. Once they're done with the 75 days, they're going to go right back to their old ways because they feel like they deserved it, and then just
Hmm.
crash and rebound and completely. Now, there's a caveat to this. Someone might complete 75 hard and actually understand, like, okay, maybe I can't live like this for the rest of my life, but I can take bits and pieces from it, right? And this is, it relates to the exact topic we're talking about. Everything is super nuanced. It can work for some people, but for most people who are not doing anything, going from nothing to the absolute extreme generally does not work well.
I mean, I can even think about that for myself right now. Like, I work out. I try to work out once a day, but it turns out to be maybe like 5 times a week. So if I was doing 2 workouts a day, that would be a significant time commitment that would take away from other things in my life.
Mm,
Gallon of water a day. I probably drink maybe 3/4 of a gallon of water. So that wouldn't be crazy, but like I can probably get it done. 10 pages of a book, I can probably squeeze it in, but I
yeah.
don't really read that often.
And that's
I
someone
would
who
like to read
literally
more.
works in sports, works in science, and it would
Yeah,
still be a big shift for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It would still be quite a bit of a commitment for me, even though I try to live by these things. I can only imagine someone that doesn't. It's not gonna be good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And my personal experience, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, is I did 75 hard. I did like a week straight, perfect. Motivation was high. When you start a new program, motivation's always high. You can kind of push through the first few days. But then once you miss one thing, once you miss one day, it reinforces in your brain that you know what, I'm not someone who's going to reach my goals. I'm not someone who's fit. It's a
Yep.
negative reinforcement because each time you try to follow something but then you don't stick to it, it tells you, you're telling your brain that, hey, I'm just not that guy. Which is why we're
Mhm.
preaching smaller lifestyle changes, because if you have 20 minutes of walking in your plan, even if you get walk outside and walk back in for 1 minute, that's 10 times better psychologically and physically than not going on that walk at all, because you're proving to yourself that you are giving your effort, and you are each time you complete a goal, even if it's small, you positively reinforce in your mind that you are going to reach your eventual bigger goal.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, when I miss a workout during the week, I'm like, okay, I feel like I took a step back. I feel like I lost my progress, which isn't the case at all. Especially if you're that maybe type A personality. I can tend to be like that sometimes. It's just going to exacerbate the issue.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Uh, I
So
was going.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go on. I was just going to say there was a tangent I would like to go on because we're on the topic of misinformation. There's a couple accounts on um, Instagram that I was going to mention. I can't remember the name, but um, they go by the Gata Gata. I think it's pronounced training routine, training theory,
Okay.
and the account name may as well just name drop it. It's called Hammer Toes, and it's this training philosophy that I was actually going back and forth with the account, just trying to get to the bottom of what exactly was like their theory behind their training, and it's trying to still be like politically correct, but it's just absolute nonsense. But meanwhile, the account that this account that I'm referring to, the Gata training theory and the Hammer Toes other account, they have up to like a little over 100,000 followers. So they have an absolutely massive following.
Mm.
People are, buying their programs and doing their training and living by their word. But I'm not trying to, like it sounds kind of like jealous of me to say that because, oh, why are they following him and not me? The reason why they're following these accounts is because it's, like I said before, it's just so digestible. It's so simple. It doesn't really take a lot. Like, for example, when I was looking at their program, um, for lack of a better word, it was just so elementary.
Mm.
It was just not, it
It's
would not drive the adaptations in the body. Their program would not give their clients the adaptations in their body that they're trying to sell.
mm.
For example, they put a picture of an NFL football player tearing their ACL and then put a couple arrows on it saying, oh, their knee was in this angle,
Mm.
which is why this NFL player tore their ACL. So do these exercises. They're not tear your ACL, and the exercises are just complete nonsense, but
Yeah.
they're very easy. They're very easy to do. You're hearing it from a person on social media that supposedly knows what they're talking about, has a huge following. But when I speak to these individuals, they cannot give me a singular piece of evidence. They really don't know their anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
They have no certifications or specializations. Um, but then, the little guy like me ends up kind of being the salty one that's not jealous.
Are you talking
Um,
about that a page that will take a video of a football player tearing their ACL like actively, and then they'll take that
mhm,
video and be like, "Oh, look at their knee mechanics. This is how you can do to prevent that." But
exactly.
you're saying that it's not as simple as just looking at the play that injured them. We have to take a look at the culmination of their daily habits and their stress levels and their training
100%.
program and so many other things. Yeah.
100%. Like, for example, um, I'm not super into football and basketball. I'm only a soccer guy, but there was a NBA player that tore his Achilles because his foot was a little over pronated, meaning like it collapsed a little bit too much. I mean, like that is probably 0.5% of the issue.
Right.
He probably had some underlying tendonitis. He probably had an extra heavy training week. He probably didn't eat as well that day.
He
He
could have
probably
just
didn't
had a
sleep
bad
as
day.
well. Yeah, he could have had a bad day, didn't eat well that day, didn't sleep well the night before, was stressed out because maybe he had a newborn baby on the way. Um, like taking all those factors
Mm.
and then you tear the largest tendon in your body, not because your foot collapsed a little bit more than usual.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with these $10 million athletes. I think their foot can collapse a little bit without tearing their strongest tendon in the body.
Yeah.
Um, and a couple, stationary exercises aren't gonna bulletproof your ankles. So I'm pretty much preaching the point of you need people like me and you and other health professionals to guide you through this world if you really want to become the person that you want to become. I know it can be pricey and a time commitment, but I mean that's kind of when you ask yourself, am I really do I really want it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's absolutely a time commitment. Like I spend, you know, you obviously went through doctorate school and got all some really incredible feats as far as your titles and all the studies that you went through. I'm kind of self taught. I did graduate with a kinesiology degree, of course, so I learned a lot there. But at the end of the day, everything after college, I sat down and read through books and textbooks and research studies and meta analysis and overviews, and it is extremely time consuming. And not only is that time consuming, making these videos are extremely time consuming. When I sit down and record for an hour and edit for 2 hours and it gets 17 views and 4 likes from my mom, my dad, and my brother, it's like, why am I doing this? But then at the end of
Yeah,
the day, like you said, you got to think about the person you want to be, what you stand for, and the information that you want to give out. I refuse to mislead people for 5 extra views or 500,000 extra views. It doesn't matter. So
100%. And I this is a little nuance, but I guarantee 110% that those larger accounts that feed this misinformation would never get a doctor or a physician or like a physical therapist or anyone to talk to them like I'm doing with you. It's
absolutely,
impossible.
yeah,
It's impossible. So I see the information you put out, completely agree with it as we're talking back and forth. Ton of similarities and ton of connections. Whether one is school taught, whether one is self taught, doesn't matter. The information is factual. Um, but those larger accounts with 100,000 followers, they're not gonna get people with credentials to vouch for them.
yeah,
It's not gonna happen. It's impossible, and it's never happened. I've never seen it
yeah.
happen, and I'm obviously neck deep in this world.
Yeah, and it's not to get into psychology too much, but I have a theory, and it's because they're not willing to surrender their ego for the truth,
Yep.
right? Because
Yep.
they've built a massive following on a lie, a big lie. So it's like a Jenga board. Like one piece, you got one doctor on your podcast to tell you you're wrong, and your whole system crumbles.
Yep.
Whereas I want to be humble enough to be like, look, I I know a lot of information. I have very valuable stuff to give, but I am willing to surrender some of my opinions if they're truly false, and take on correct, true information that it can actually help people in the long run, rather than sell them on some BS that might work for a day, but then they fall off of it. Like keto diet, like so easy to tell people to cut out carbs without asking about their training history, their stress levels, their marriage status, do they have kids, what kind of job do they have, how many steps do they get, are they willing to work out
Yep.
twice a week, are they willing to work out 5 times. I mean, it's just like, what food allergies do you
Yep.
have, but no one wants to sit here and listen to that. You know what I mean? So that's the
Yeah,
unfortunate part.
exactly. And those accounts, I mean, I don't think they're doing it out of bad faith. I think they're doing it out of good faith. Like they probably want to help people.
Yeah.
But I mean, they want to help people, but that's probably secondary. Obviously, primary is make some money.
Mm, I agree.
But I mean, we all want to make money. We all want to make money. We all want to do well financially. But is that coming at the cost of like doing good work? I don't feel like that's a good trade off.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, it's like we've been talking about. All this is so hard. You can't talk to 100 people in one day about their lives, their stresses, their physical pain, their physical goals. You can't do that. But you can give 100 people in one day a cookie cutter approach and make 100 times more money.
mm,
So
absolutely.
it's you duplicate yourself. That's the number one thing to making more money. But in our world, unless you have people working under you, you can't really duplicate yourself in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And I agree with all that. And I, look, I don't want to make this podcast too long, so I just want to finish off with one super important topic here. We've talked a lot about misinformation here, but to wrap it up, I want to inform people on, if someone's listening to this and they're like, look, I just want to learn more, but I keep getting my page riddled with all this BS. How how can we direct towards how can we direct those people to start critically thinking, how to spot misinformation, how to spot good information, and how to find a wide variety of nuanced creators and subjects and topics to kind of sift through and create their own kind of complex of fitness in their head that's actually based on science, facts, and personal anecdotes too are important. But at the end of the day, how do we get those people in the right direction?
So if I had, that's a great question, and I can definitely summarize that, and I'll try to summarize it in a few words. If I'm just, just the average person, and I'm scrolling through Instagram, and I have fitness goals in my mind that I want to accomplish, I just don't know how to do it, but I'm seeing all these, huge influencers on my feed. If you see this phrase, do these three things to get this goal, then it is 99% conversion rate wrong. Like it's going to be wrong 99% of the time. If you hear do these three things to solve this goal, it's wrong.
And I just
That's
want to add something to that. The way you said it is important. If you do these three things, you will reach the goal. Right?
exactly.
I've made videos saying here are 5 tips to help you reach X goal.
Hmm.
Very big discrepancy there because these 5 tips could, in theory, if you followed them, could help you reach the goal depending on context and nuance. But like he was saying, if there's someone saying if you don't do these 3 things, you will not lose fat. It's like unless they're saying calorie deficit, lifting weights, and 10,000 steps. Even then, like you know what I mean. Like you can't just base your whole
Yep.
pillar of a subject on 3 things. Like it doesn't make any sense.
I always say this. I don't want to go too long, but like I always say this. Our world is very hard to sell because if you're trying to sell a lifestyle change, a whole habitual change, a working out change, a nutritional change, and a stress change, if you do those things, you just might reach your goal. So, what makes you think these three exercises are going to solve your issue? It's completely impossible.
Mm-hmm.
That's an influencer selling you something that is, you're just going to waste money on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, when you hear someone appreciating the whole picture, that's when you know you're in the right place.
All right. Final question I want to ask you, kind of piggybacking off that last question. How can this person who's watching this video and wants to get better and wants to know the truth, what's one step they could take right now after finishing listening to this podcast to fight against misinformation and start the fight for true information, the fight for critical thinking?
Yeah. So what I would say to that is, um, pick the lowest hanging fruit in your life. What's that lowest hanging fruit? That might be, like we talked about earlier, drinking a little bit more water, um, going on a walk during your breaks, reading a little bit of a book before bed, spending less phone time before bed, listening to podcasts like this on your commute to work. It's something that's a very low hanging fruit that you can accomplish consistently every single day. If you're doing it once a week, it's not going to work. It's not going to be good for you. 4 times to 7 times a week, that's going to be a habitual change that you'll have for the rest of your life. Again, lowest hanging fruit. That's always the first thing I'll reach for when I'm working with someone.
Yeah. Yeah, boil your goal down to the small. They shrink it down to the smallest possible thing you can do right now, and something that you could do, like you said, 4 out of 7 days a week, because being consistently decent is so much better than being inconsistently perfect, right? The person who
Oh
goes
yeah,
to the gym once a week for 10 years is going to make way better gains, no matter how optimal his program is, than the person who goes for 7 days straight and then skips a month, and then he goes 7 days straight and then skips 3 months. You know what I'm saying? So
100%. That's what I say as well.
yeah. Well,
100%.
I don't want to take too much of your time. We'll wrap this up here. If you're watching this and you made it this far, appreciate you, love you, and I hope you can help us fight against misinformation on the internet as far as fitness, because we are two smaller creators trying to make our way in the fitness social media world and trying to kind of sift through the bullshit and tell you the facts, how it is, the uncomfortable truth sometimes. Um, but hopefully, people like us can make it feel more comfortable knowing that this is the shortcut. The shortcut is by trying to eliminate all the other shortcuts and just go through your goals, one step at a time. So, any last words before I
100%.
cut this thing off?
No, I think we definitely got into a pretty deep conversation. I'm pleased with what we got through.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Drop a comment on what we should cover next, and I'll drop Cuneyt Dr. Vardar social in the bio. Go drop him a follow. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Well, thank you.